John's Jane wants us to approve the steps. Please too, bro. Would you mind? No. This evening, we'll do an installment. Someone went in from the waiver and admitted in the waiver. Well, good evening. Before we begin, let's take a moment. We're attending. Alan, you're Beth. Yeah. Stephanie, here. Chris. Here. Michelle. Here. Here. Ron. Here. I would like to call this meeting of the Community Monterey Board of Trustees order at 5:33. First, let's review and approve the meeting minutes from our last two meetings. First, we have the meeting minutes for 18/24. I propose that we accept the minutes as written from full 418. Recommending official approval of my changes. So it seems to be approval. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So we will propose that we set the minutes for 18 with that correction. Second that. All right, all in favor? Aye. All those. Motion passes unanimously. And then we have the meeting minutes from 2 board organization. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Yes. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. All right. And we're going to move on to the board updates. We were the business of the month at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. We had the opportunity that we're traveling these meetings created by the office. We'll give a brief speech regarding who we are, and also where we're going. And we have an opportunity to speak to our relocation process and where we are now and the importance of funding as we move through this process. And it was just a really quick speech. I talked to a couple of people afterwards. We had one person express interest in joining the board, which is really exciting. She works with the Food Science Center and so should be excellent resource. And I did send her the information on how to apply. We currently have a work system set of trustees, which is we can have a fill-in. So if anyone would like to join, please reach out to board by PCM Board. We're glad to give you information. I've also spoken in front of home environment as well. And just gave them the filter. Very exciting. And then we're going to move on to our comments. Okay, so welcome. If you'd like to make public comment, you will be called on in the order you logged in or arrived. We did have one request for public comment made through the board email address. We generally allow 5 minutes for presentation of personal comments, questions, concerns, grievances. You can view our PCM grievance and conflict resolution policy and procedures. The link is included in the agenda, which you can get through our public portal. Public comment should be shared with the board in writing in advance of the board meeting for us to better address your consideration. Thank you. You can apply to make public comment by emailing board@mypcm.org, or you could submit in paper form to the PCM office in the Gladish Community and Cultural Center. And you should receive confirmation of receipt of your written statement within 48 hours of submission. And so we do have Catherine has requested maybe a public comment. Catherine, you're up first, and thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, good. Okay. First, I would like to say thank you for allowing me to make a comment and ask some questions tonight. I think most of you know me, but for those of you who don't or don't know my story, I'll take a moment to let you know why this school and situation is so important to me. My name is Catherine, and I'm a parent of a former PCM student. I first sent a letter to the PCM board on January 18th of 2023. And was the first parent to ever speak at a meeting on February 28th of 2023. It was always my intention to bring the issues I saw to the board so that the school may be improved and thrive. Ironically, some of the issues I brought to the board at that time over a year ago were the same issues that were listed in the commission's letter of perceived problems and reasons to revoke. I kept my child in the school while communicating with the board, hoping for change, but nothing was ever done, so I pulled my child from the school last spring. I went to the board with the blatant retaliation my child faced by the head of school and was told they couldn't address it because I would need to file a new grievance and start the process over. I've continued to go to the meetings and follow what was happening in the school because my child told me she was safe now, but she was still worried about her friends who were still in the school. So I promised her I would not stop until they were all safe. Sorry. When the same concerns came to light in January of this year, I said I was sad that so many had been hurt, but also relieved that the truth was finally coming out. I thought for sure there would finally be some accountability and change. And while I appreciate that most of the board is new and really dedicating so much time and effort to try to get caught up and turn things around, I feel personally that there has been one huge issue that is not being addressed and needs to be. I can only speak for myself, but in conversations with other prior families and staff, it has been mentioned many times, and I think we all agree. We need the board to apologize. I realize you weren't here the whole time, but now you are the members left to represent what the board should be. I think an apology for the way that so many that came forward were treated, ignored, and silenced, An apology from the board for not performing the oversight of the school, management, and the finances like they agreed to do when they joined. For covering up and gaslighting families and staff instead of asking the hard questions and making the hard decisions. I will be candid and say personally, it feels like a slap in the face that with everything that has come to light, there has been zero accountability. Past board members just resign and move on. The head of the school sits on paid administrative leave, and now, as of the last meeting, the investigation is stalled while you look into hiring a new investigator, so it looks like that will lead nowhere as well. I have questions. Will the head of school be allowed to just stay on paid leave through the end of the school year, which she said she will resign, and then just be able to move on? I believe according to her contract, she's an at-will employee, and with everything that families and staff have brought to the board and charter commission, how is that not enough to make a decision? Acknowledging what went wrong and how to prevent that from happening again is a necessary step in this process. How will you guarantee better oversight and transparency in the future? How can families trust this board will be different? I don't know how families could return without these issues being addressed in a frank, open, and honest manner. I understand that you're probably worried about a lawsuit from many different parties. So what I'm asking for may be impossible, but I will ask again because I think it could go a long way in helping to heal some of the deep pain that many have suffered. So I humbly ask for the board to just say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what this community, staff, and families have gone through. I'm sorry that the board didn't protect you sooner. I'm sorry that the board let the children, families, staff, and community down. That was not right, and we will do better going forward. And then do better. That was not, there are so many that want nothing more than for this school to thrive, but we need that healing to start. We need to see real, tangible change and to be heard and acknowledged so that we can all work together without mistrust. Thank you.
Catherine, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who is here who'd like to make public testimony? No one in the room then. Thank you. All right. We will move on to the leaders team update and plans. We would normally do the board dashboard update. At this time, I have not been able to get completed. I do, however, continue to address that at our next meeting and make sure that we got. But I can go over some things. We did just recently have compliance pieces that were due yesterday, and we submitted them on time, which raises from the 67% to 68% compliance submission tracker. And then our enrollment is currently sitting at 80. We did lose a couple of people due to relocation, from my understanding. And then for our safety tracker, I covered out with my head of school update, or I knew that I had my interim head of school. And we have had a spike in safety incidents. We recently had our meeting first in the 2 weeks that she was gone. We saw one class experience a computer issues, and then once those were addressed, we saw on the flip side now that she's back, we can do this, which is good online, to repost this evening. And you can also refer to it as well in our previous agendas because it's an online tracker and it's great. But in there, you'll see that this week our and spring break. This has really been a much better so that's something that Neil and I have been discussing ways to continue to work through these behavior concerns. Certain students, been given tasks and activities and help. They're, helping hand out breakfast in the morning, doing photocopies, help keep them engaged, connected, and that seems to be a very positive way to help keep them on the right track, which is exciting. I see them often when I'm in the break room, so I'll go over the mornings. And then also, we've been doing our best in the school to make sure substitutes, when they're in classrooms, are in the same classroom, to help maintain consistency there as well. So rather than just bouncing around, if one's getting 207, that's where they can find the 211. We try to keep them consistent students, so they're not throwing too much change at them. And then Jamil's just been continuing with her classroom observations, and we're bringing feedback immediately to instructors. But she's helping to capture some of these behaviors and identify ways to, address the challenges that we need to and respond. It's really great to see. I know that the teachers are really, really great. Other than that, like I said, you will get that updated as soon as it becomes available. And other than that, move on to the board goals, committee, and council updates. And we have our individual board member reports. Right here, in order of alphabet order. Joe, it's just the board member self finance. Thank you. Yes. 1 hour meetings, so just scheduled to be just this time, right? So we can vaccines, make sure that people are admitted and the materials were. So, today, oh, yeah. Did you know that in the regular case started just behind the scene? That matters. Just like that. David and me who have started the 24-25 budget, I started. So it's all of us. We'll be scrambling too much. So we have started. Let's see. In the finance committee meeting, I did a little bit of just a 10-minute education on internal controls because that's a particular point of focus for the finance committee. How can we be sure if we're following them, we don't know what they are? So my presentation was generic. Here is what internal controls are to the whole world, not specifically here. If that's something the rest of the board is interested in from time to time, a little short in service on financial stuff, we'll happy to do that. And finally, we got some clarification from law charters from Bailey, law charters about the roles and scopes of PTA versus PTO versus parent council. And Kim, if you want to discuss that further, I'll leave it to you, but it was a good piece of clarification about fundraising. That's it for Alan.
I attended the luncheon, the chamber, chatted with some people there, and I also submitted a grant application on behalf of PCM to Whitman County United Way, and that was for outdoor equipment, recess equipment, and PE equipment. And I collaborated with Dominic, to find out what we thought would be most useful for the kids. So haven't heard anything, the deadline is just this Monday. They did receive it. I also put together a folder while I was working on that grant application. So if anybody else is working on a grant application, the stuff that's easily available, such as number of students, number of families, letters saying that we're nonprofit, of our nonprofit status, our whistleblower, things like that. That pretty much all runs required.
So I have been trudging through policies, and I'm still kind of in the process of assessing where we need to focus our attention to clarify, to ensure that we are in compliance with Washington state law, with federal law, and also that we are clearly describing what the processes are for people to raise grievances and what our processes are for addressing those grievances to ensure that we efficiently and effectively address problems if and when they crop up. That has been a problem with this, and we are working to address it. And half of me wants to comment directly to Catherine and say thank you for your comments, and that in some senses I strongly sympathize. There have been things we needed to do better, and I'd like to invite you to come and be part of the solution, because the more sets of eyes, the more brains on the problem, the better we're going to be able to see it, and the better we're going to be able to address it and to understand everybody's perspectives and come to consensus on what right looks like.
Well, I've just been doing a little bit of research concerning reference with the USDA culture, but unfortunately, Pullman's in a weird situation where we're not necessarily considered a rural area, despite being so far east. And I've just been running into podcast roadblocks and coming to that. So it's one of the things that they're trying to see if there's an it's
I have spent a lot of hours trying to get a picture of here now. Similar to what you were saying, trying to understand all of the points of view that was here, and what had happened. And so that has been work the last couple of weeks, as well as my different events.
If you have any questions or looking for specific information, feel free to reach out. I mean, that you can definitely.
Thank you.
And then I think most of what I'm covering is coming up later, but I did attend the board. And I spoke in front of everyone. Very exciting. And I tried to steal Maureen's paperwork off. Great. It looked like it was a great turnout. I was into our mayor, whoever the city. It was very nice, and I learned more about progress in the city, which is also very exciting. And then I was able to, like I said, make a connection with someone interested in joining the board. And we were able to show the great things our students have been doing and showcase the materials for our community. So that's all for now. And Stephanie.
So I've been
looking at the webpage and also looking back at what, how we ended up coming here from not just the perspective that, I'm a new board member, but from a parent's perspective through the kids as well. So they're seeing a lot of the changes. When it comes to the whole webpage thing, I'm going through it just to pretty much read up on what I learned years ago for the coding and everything to go in with any writing down any questions I have to go with it. So it's been a question that's been going around. And when I find all the notes to that, I'll actually have it easier to find. Otherwise, I haven't been able to get a whole lot done. It's been kind of hectic at home for the moment.
And then, our committee updates. The leadership support and evaluation committee is currently inactive until we have our permanent head of school in place. However, I did recently submit a survey to all staff asking for feedback for interim head of school, and we will deliver an update on that in our next meeting. And then on this note, I did connect with Bailey, who's our governance coordinator for Lost Rivers, and learned that we can elect folks to committees. So I was going to utilize the new survey function, Board on Track, and get a feel for interest in our current committees, and also put a vote in there to see if there are committees that need more, and then we can get those in our next position, get those up and running. Cool. We also have inactive, we have the development committee and the governance committee and the educational excellence committee.
Well, we would have to find out because the head of school was on that committee, and also Jim, and both of them are absent from the school.
I wonder if that's one that we could maybe take a poll, see if there's another board member who may want to participate, and also even days.
Emily was going to be on that committee.
Yeah. But see if there's anyone else who might be interested, and also, the broad community, and see if anyone else would like to participate. Because I think that'd be a really excellent opportunity. And then on to SCC.
Hello. So the last couple weeks have been a little slow with sicknesses going through households and including my own. But we have still been working hard. We have restarted our, I've restarted our efforts on the policies and going through the policies and everything. We did get our account figured out to be able to apply for grants and stuff. And so those efforts have continued forward now. We also received the t-shirt and dispersed the t-shirts for the fundraiser. And we do have some extras, and once we get an accurate count on how we want to disperse that, we will work on getting those extras dispersed. And we have decided that the funds for that is going to be going to the outdoor science school to go and help with that. And then with the meeting with WSU today, along with everything else, we do have multiple people on the finance committee as well. And Alan and I had talked with WSU today about volunteer efforts, what they can do for us, what we can do for them, and that kind of thing. We have acknowledged and we spoke about some ways that we can help each other more, including possibly practicums for student teachers, getting possibly some videos for training over to them and possibly a staff member once a semester to help train them so that when they come, they're not just standing there, but they do have some training and know what to expect when they come into the classroom. We also spoke about different classes and programs that WSU has that may be able to benefit us later. We will be discussing more on that after we talk with some of the individuals that those would affect, and getting their opinions on it. And then I feel like I'm missing something, but I cannot think of it. Yes, we had some individuals go to the Watch Harder conference and reported back on that. There was some really good information on that we are going to be exploring and seeing how it may be able to benefit us, and seeing what some of the cost factors may be so that finance committee can take that into account when creating the budget.
Yes. Which department did you speak with at WSU?
Center for Civic.
Oh, the Center that was with them. Thank you.
We got lots of notes on that.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Excellent. Any other questions?
So when they're gonna be at the River Festival this weekend, from my understanding, the school doesn't have a Twitter account for that. So I think that's something that we'll need to figure out, because on Saturday, we need to find a way to split
If I can get somebody get the information for the banking information for that, I can get that set up.
we can partner Lisa, she's on vacation. Maybe Naperville, maybe they didn't know protocol around that. Or which account it would go into, or how that would work, I don't know.
Yeah, like, accepting electronic payments on the spot. Yeah, it's pretty easy on an iPhone with a tap card.
But like how it says the account.
Yeah.
We'll need to figure out.
It's Thursday, it's not Saturday yet, so.
We got a harder. Figure that out.
The Senate Civic Engagement, if we're still around, and hopefully next year, Senate Civic Engagement usually has an event early in the semester where different organizations are accepting volunteers, can set up a display, students can go and find out about your organization, and they can get that contact information, because in certain fields, to get into education, the students are required to have so many hours before
80 hours around student or around youth in general. And to be able to, they have to have that 80 hours to be able to apply to the college to get their degree.
Yeah. So it's a great event to go to.
You definitely have to keep that in mind. I don't think that was mentioned, but.
So semester long.
Mm-hmm.
Unpaid students, but.
Mm-hmm. So there is practical students there, but they would be there for an entire semester. And they have to have experience in the classroom during the practical and everything, with planning lessons, teaching a lesson, working with the students and everything. So that could be a very good avenue to help get that aid in there. For those, what they said, practicum students do not get paid because it is part of their educational process. So that may help financially as well.
Yeah, and I know I've spoken to you as well from Spokane, Monster there, and that's very commonly some gaps in Montessori instructors.
They had also mentioned internships, and that we can offer internships, and that the majority of them are, if not all of them, are assumed when going into it that it will not be paid. And she said that there have been places who have had an unpaid internship and still got some really good people in there for that. So that is also an option.
Great.
It's not easy, that's.
Yeah, and there's some different programs in there that, at least I will be looking into, but we wanna talk with some of the people that would affect more directly and get their take on it, so that we're not just like stepping on toes and.
Yes. Toes from, you can do them, as well. Some of them are gonna go into youth services, family services, and, like, the school setting.
Cause I know that that department was mentioned as well, with some things that they would typically do. And I think one of the ones in that one that was mentioned was having people just going through like the site and just making sure that it's accessible and that it's working, and getting ideas. So if we wanted ideas on like fundraising or grants or anything like that, that we could also use some of them to kind of brainstorm a bunch of things. So there was definitely a lot of good information like that.
Those WSU students are, they really enjoy it. I'm very excited.
And apparently we do have a account, can't remember what it's called, I have it written down though, where either we can update it or they can, where for like our needs, like so if we are doing an event, say like on Saturday, we can post that on there and get people to volunteer for that. Yes. I do know Jill was running that, so I don't know. Oh, okay, perfect. Well, that answers my question with that portion. Okay. So we can put stuff on there to help get volunteers for any events, family nights, just extra set of hands for anything, even just setting up chairs or something like that. We can go with that on there and students can volunteer. So.
Nice.
And finance committee report, they go home.
Then I was afraid I had gotten out to see, and then I saw we had full finance and cheer, so thank you for that. Did that. Thank you for that.
And it works great, doesn't it, everything? That's great.
Yes. That was 2 days ago. We had some great engagement with Jewel Grove Partners by not only Kim, lots of good questions, which shows a good robust review and is an important role. Also by Laura, one of our community members who served the meeting. So thank you for the engagement. Like I said, that's a strong control. I don't really know what the history is of showing going through the tantrums with the board, with the entire board. Is that something you'd like me to do?
You typically at least show the financial dashboard.
Okay.
And gone through that.
So I did not have the presence of mind to get onto Zoom. My apologies. I wonder if we can bypass that for now.
Yeah, we have a motion to move the finance committee update to a later time.
I propose that we move the financial days until
After board also question.
after discussion and response to updates and response to probation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, on to the board update on small submissions. So to start with, Janelle and I sat down with commission on Friday. With
Commission staff.
it was commission staff, so it was, the deputy executive Marcus and Italiana and Jess who were And we were going over the QSR, which is the quarterly school review. It's a regular meeting for charter schools with the commission. And they had received an email from me asking some very specific questions and said to cover those in our meeting. And I was asking if they had a recommendation for the board. They led with that, after telling us some of the updates from the commission. They led with, we're going to give you our recommendation, which will be delivered to our board, and the recommendation based on finances and our request to change the program terms for charter. They will recommend relocation of the charter to the commission. And they didn't have a whole lot of details to provide around the program terms. They really deferred back for a lot of our questions about, how does this look going forward? They referred to the timeline that they had presented us earlier. So after reviewing the response, and gathering information as part of the review, gathering all questions they would have asked them, and then they will make a decision whether to recommend relocation or not. And then the commission board will need to have another special meeting to decide whether to issue a draft resolution to revoke or not. If the school requests, the school may request an opportunity to respond to the draft resolution within 20 days. If the school requests an opportunity to respond, then the commission will hold a public proceeding in which the school may submit written response, documents, give testimony. There is not a specific timeline by which the hearing must be held. Within 30 days of the public proceeding, the presiding officer of the hearing shall make a written recommendation to the commission regarding whether the revocation decision should stand or be altered. The commission will deliberate the recommendation and hold another special meeting to make a final determination. After speaking with the commission staff, they informed me that they would not announce this officially, so our talk has not started. They wanted to give us a chance to discuss our next step as a board. Basically, whether at this point we would like to turn our charter back and go forward in the process. So before I move forward in my update, are there any questions or concerns?
Is there any suggestion or any chance that we could ask for another visit to the school? Because it seemed that visit that was made before the meeting, when the Charter Commission staff made the recommendation to the commission that we were going to revoke. That visit came at a time of crisis. It came at a time when one of our staff, it was the day of one of our staff members' funeral. We had a lot of staff who were gone attending that. So people weren't in their normal class. It didn't seem like it was a typical day. And I know that one of the commission staff lives in Spokane. And so I'm just wondering if it seems reasonable for us to request, when such a big decision is being made, that impacts the staff, the families, students, that another visit to see how the school is doing now. I would like to ask them to do that. I would love if we could ask one of the commissioners to come themselves to see the school.
And this is something that I feel strong. I wrote one of my neighbors requesting information. I feel that these are very big decisions, and for them to be made purely remotely by Zoom at times when our community is not necessarily able to visit, or when we're working while the school is in session, it makes it very hard to move forward in the process and to feel represented. So I agree that I don't think at this point it would hurt. I don't know if they would, but I definitely think you can make that.
I think it's worth asking, and you know, because we, of course, we can't, you know, we don't, that's not under our control. But, I would like to request it. And the other request that I would like to make to them is, that when the next hearing is set, we didn't even get 48 hours notice. I think, you know, especially if the hearing is going to be on the west side, our community needs more time to be able to attend and send people.
Or even ask if there's a facility on Spokane or, you know, a location on the east side where possibly.
In the Tri-Cities, you know, somewhere closer. But if we were the only item on the agenda for that meeting, and I think from talking with you said many of the commissioners were remote anyway.
On one of the Zoom meetings, many of them were remote, and first one where I attended.
Yeah, so if most of the commissioners are going to be remote anyway, could the meeting be held here? Because if you're going to be remote, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter as much. But it would be great if somebody could come over here to the east side. And that will, you know, that would allow more of our families, our staff have turned up every, you know, has turned up every day for work. It would be nice if the meeting was there and some of our staff could also just turn up and be present.
You hear about the east side being like an island. If you live on the west side, you really don't understand that are here.
Yeah.
Because it is truly like a complete.
Yes, our students should have the opportunity to be heard. Otherwise, this will feel absolutely absurd and Kafkaesque to them. And I don't think that's the commission's intention, but we definitely need to try and do everything we can to ensure that no matter where this process goes from here, it is in the best interests of these students. And part of that is them being heard.
Especially the adolescent community.
Especially the adolescent.
They're in the middle of learning about representation with their student council.
Yep.
I think. So at this point, do we need a motion? Do we need a motion, or do I just call for a vote on whether we should turn our program?
Is there?
Maybe we should just give our thoughts on it and then have a vote. Just to hear, I think it would be good for our people who are watching, our people in the room to know, our staff, our families, our children to know where we stand.
Yeah, I agree.
I know that I've said it before, but I am taking to limit and for the long haul. So for as long as I need to be present in this process, I will be. And I will do everything in my power to do the right thing and just make sure that we move in the right direction. You know, whatever that may be. And I know which direction I want it to move in, but if someone can come like that's not a good idea, then I will be open to that too. I just want to make sure we're doing what's right by our families and our staff and our community partners. Yeah, it's really important. And I think it's really important to recognize that charter schools do have a tough go at, as evidenced by some of the challenges that I've been reading about in the news. And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to open and run a school. And, you know, at this point, we have a lot of lessons learned and we have a lot of really good momentum from our community, from partners in our community, from partnerships we're forming. Our parent group has never been stronger. I've never seen a parent group as strong as any other school I've been in. And so many people who are active and involved and wanting to make a difference. So I feel that it's important that we continue to let our voices be.
Good idea. Good. And I would like to see the process through. That's where I'm from. It's like I feel that We put so much work into starting the school, running the school, responding to the commission. So much work has been put into that I would prefer to see it through all the way through to the appeal process if it takes that long. And also, because we've heard that, you know, other schools have handed back their charter in this situation. No one, am I right? No one in Washington State has gone through this process. And for the sake of ourselves, but also for the sake of other charter schools, to go through the process, because when we're going through it, we ask, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? How does that work? And, you know, who could we talk to that's been through this process? No one. And so at least we would be an example of what to expect as you go through the process. So I hope it helps us, but also I hope that going through that process would be helpful to other charter schools.
That's your perspective, yeah.
They will.
Kind of on a similar note to that, in going through this process, we're giving the commission an opportunity to learn places where maybe they aren't communicating as clearly as they think they are as well. And so it will help them to grow, to develop as staff, and to get better at their job. And ultimately, that is going to be better for charter school students and staff across the state, effectively moving forward from here. So regardless of where we end, I agree with it's definitely worth taking this train ride.
I think it would just be such a shame if I drove my daughter all the way to Olympia to deliver her 1-minute testimony and then to say, sorry, we got some bad news.
Yeah.
All over because her eyes are on me too.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm worried about. If we turn this in, we're not just letting down the community who's watching us do this. We're not letting down the other charter schools. We're letting down our own children.
Yeah.
And what example does that give?
And we're also letting down other students across the state.
Exactly.
Because we are propagating the system that doesn't fund education equitably, and which has a tendency to funnel resources to precisely the schools which least need them, while leaving the schools that need those resources most just scrambling. Charter schools are just a microcosm of a bigger problem in that respect.
I think this speaks to their education system
Yes.
as a whole. So we shall either be an example of how to make it or a sacrificial lamb. Either way,
In either case, will be an example.
we'll be the first.
I also think it's really important for us to go all the way through the same as staff. Because it's not easy to turn up every day when you know and sort of work through a crisis, and when there are many other opportunities.
No, definitely every one of them is an example of real heroism and real courage and remarkable. I move to vote on whether this commission or whether this board wants to return our charter to the commission or see this process through.
I guess all in favor of returning the charter? All opposed? All opposed to returning the charter? Unanimous. The first, we got a second.
Yes.
You did that. Okay, so, all in favor of returning the charter? All opposed to returning the charter? Nay. Right, the motion to return the charter does not pass, and we will continue on this process. And I will do my part, notify our commission partners of our choice, and I will also do my part to communicate with staff and let them know what this looks like going forward, and I will get a clearer timeline from the commission staff, and get that communicated as soon as possible. And I will work with Desiree and Janelle to send out a parent square post to our parents as well, so we can make sure that we're keeping them informed on the process, what the timeline looks like. And I will work with Watch Harder to get resources for them to be available, potentially over the summer as this progresses, so they can do what's best for their families as well. So that's important to keep them informed.
And we do need to try and push this process because families need to have to adjust regardless of what the outcome is.
Absolutely. People have jobs and just
Will you also make requests, would you like me to try to make requests? See if we could have a visit to see if we can hold, especially most of the commissioners going to be remote anyway, if they can hold the meeting here. So the families most impacted can attend and be present.
Good. If you go ahead, sure, that'd be great.
I will do that.
And then, I think that's important, and my kids are, in this process, they've already asked what they can do to help. They've asked if they can write them. Hey, every little word counts, right?
Yeah, and their
Adolescent community was already ready. My daughter told me this when she came home.
Really, that's amazing.
are policymakers out west that need to understand that the policy right now is broken and that there are ways that it needs to be addressed because frankly, students are suffering as a result of not having availability of resources.
And that's a whole,
That's I agree. That's not just us. It is literally
small
the entire system.
Do we have a sense of what the timeline is?
People thrown out August. And I know it's not, but
Yeah.
I don't think that the let's looking. I think that.
Okay.
And I think that it's fair to all to laugh that, with respect to, them making all the decisions, moving all material, that we do address it as, as quickly as possible on a tight timeline rather than drawing out. So I don't think that's what any of us is doing. We want to know, as soon as possible. Because then there's also compliance pieces for the school to follow, there's planning, there's calendars, there's curriculum, which we can still work on in the background, but if we also need to consider the alternative, which is Google Meet, or there are other processes that also need to be taking place. And I'm working with Watch Partners and our financial partners with JGP to make sure that those are like standing in the wings and ready to deploy. So that is something that is present and available, but I think letter writing campaign would be really important right now. And just putting it out to the community too. And I don't think only on our parents' square, but I also think Toby, I spoke with Toby, one of our substitutes today, and Toby really enjoys social media, Instagram, Facebook. Annette said that she likes to do TikTok. So we have people who can help us get the word out on social media. Because I know that's just one more thing to do, but if we've got someone who's engaged and excited in the classroom and in school, who knows the students, who knows students' names, who knows who we can remove from videos if we need to, I think that that's invaluable in getting the word out, just getting some traction and getting awareness raised, because again, it's not just our schools, it's charter schools. So no, that's so we're going to get the word out there. We'll always do this in our school. And if anyone has an idea or something we can post or something we can do that would be engaging, then feel free to send it to the board email. I think that'd be awesome, because then we can get more involvement, the better.
Maybe a letter to the paper, asking community members to also communicate with the commission because, I have spoken to a few people in the community, you know, who don't have children, their children are grown up. So they don't have a personal investment, but they do have a philosophical like investment in like choice is a good thing. And for families, if the only choice you have, if the public school setting isn't working for your child, is a religious school or a private school, for many families, that means there is no choice. Or, you know, a homeschool is just not something that you're able to do.
Not everyone gets the program. That's a completely different one. Right. We are work cut out for us, but we're spunky people. We are ready. So we've gone over the timeline. In regards to the corrective action plan, the response to it, specifically around safety, I did want to touch on the head of school meeting that I do weekly. It's really enlightening to be able to speak to Janelle about the progress she's making, and just the enhanced communication with families and the involvement with families. It just recently, these last couple of weeks, they're having extra concern with what seemed like new students. They were able to work with the families partners in the community to help address some of these concerns more effectively. And just the partnership, she said, life changing, just being able to make those connections and have those conversations. We have secured Mike Dunn from WSU, as well as an associate, Shanna Hirsch, I believe, and she is from South Carolina. And she is a special education director. She's also a professor at the university there for special education services. She is going to help partner with him for the desk review of our MTSS practices. And so we plan on seeing results from that by the 30th of June. We do now have 2 IAs in position. We had initially thought that our new IA cat would not be able to start until next year, but she was able to get in and get on board and has been training this week, and she is very engaged and excited for the process. And just as I was moving today, I was asking if there's anything she can do to help as we move through this. So I was really, and then update on the third-party investigation. I know that that's been weighing heavily on our community, and we would have rather have the first investigator succeed and deliver results. And dragging this out is not anything that I would like to wrap this up and just nice bow, I'll just be done with it, but that's not how it's working out. We did sign an engagement letter with a new firm. We'll be working with them to determine the best way to proceed given our limited budget, as we are going to be utilizing the original $10,000 allocated by law partners in order to move forward with the investigation, because the original investigator just recused herself and just said, since I can't deliver the results, don't worry about it. I'm moving for the next one, basically. So we'll get that rolling as soon as possible. First, get towards all of fun people stuff. Very exciting. And then for the academic performance framework, we submitted comments to be included in our academic on the commission's website. And I haven't heard back from our commission partners yet, but I partnered with Dave, and attached to the agenda is the response that we submitted to the commission regarding our proficiency compared to our partner home school district. There are comparisons because of proximity, because of grade served. So efficiency and growth, and then also attendance and school-specific goals. So when you look at this, one thing to remember is because of the size of our school and the size of some of the populations who are scored in terms of growth, we cannot release results because these populations are so small, 10 students and under, and some of those are not. So because those populations are so small, we cannot share their growth because that would be potentially breaking confidentiality for some of these students. So while we did show dramatic growth in some of these areas, we simply cannot share it publicly, and that I did mention to the commission, and I shared it with them, but we can publicly advertise that online. That is very heartbreaking that some of the things that we are selling that we can't shout from the rooftops, but we can see it in the halls, we can see it in the students, we can see it in their progress as they move through the grade. So that's something that I sort of just, then our school specific goals, we met and exceeded now is to see at least a 50% score, student score in the red category for the testing. So we saw that in both math and English. So that was really good to see that too.
Was that for, across the board, all students, or was it for specific, like?
I believe it was for a specific population. It was for students scoring in red. So
Students scoring.
So any students who scored in the red, we wanted to see them improve. I believe it was. I would have to double check that. So it's basically students who are performing dramatically.
Making that,
Dramatic
making that, progress.
Yeah, so at least 50%.
Yes.
So, and that's something that I included, and when the actual results are released, those will be available online. Very exciting. Yes. And then other than that, I don't have a lot more in the way of updates. Officially, the head of school has been separated from the organization to ensure the timely and effective completion of the investigation. And that's something that happened effective the 15th, and I will be working with the school the staff to ensure that we work through that process and redirect everything where it needs to be, and addressing, who emails get directed to. So something we've already been in discussion about, something we'll execute this week. Make sure that everything is directed appropriately, and then work there in our communication as to, who to contact, so there's no confusion. Yeah. Other than that, on to other business. Thank you. I'll skip. Please take it away.
I'm sorry, I had to shuffle things, but I think, am I a co-presenter? Thank you. Never done it. Okay, let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. Right. This is the financial dashboard, 5 covenants with the commission from our charter contract. Top one, enrollment, red light. Well, they're all red lights. The reason for that is our budget was 136, and several meetings ago, the board expressed some discomfort with going forward with that sort of assumption. But that's where we have been, and we were at 86 at the end of April, and I think you said 80 at this point, right? Okay, so that's the red light. Next red light, public revenue received % overall budget. The result is a little better than goal, but Dual Growth Partners gives that a red light because of the underlying cause, and that's we've lost some $400,000 in revenue due to lower enrollment. So to make that a green or even yellow light might be a little deceptive. I guess I would like to see the phrasing on some of these panes to clarify what a red light versus a green light is, but I don't know if we can do that. It's a document for the charter, so it's not today's issue. I'm saying that because I understand the wording of the grant system a little confusing. Credit revenue is a percent of overall budget. Again, that appears to be good, 129% versus 79%. But if we look at the underlying cause, we see that private revenue includes funding for our interim head of school, which is Neil, which is not a place we'd like to find ourselves, of course, a red light. Takes a little judgment.
Expenditures to date, we're a little over budget on that, 76%, but as Jewel Growth Partners mentions over here, the fact that we won't be doing a lot of summer spending, we'll drop that down and we may come in within our goal on expenditures as percent of budget. Cash on hand at the end of April was 44 days. However, we anticipate ending the school year at about 200,000, which is needed in order to carry us through the beginning of school, which is an extensive time to start up. Down here, May enrollment, we didn't know it at that time. At the time we had the meeting, levy equalization, which is something that the state has given us for, I guess, several years, but it's not guaranteed, so we don't budget for it. That really helped out. Without that, our $200,000, as you can see, would be a lot less. Some material variances here that Jewel pointed out. Contract services, well, sure, we've got interim head of school as well as previous head of school with us, and a few other things. This last point down here, current fiscal year count of missing documentation, what that means is charges to credit cards, checks written out of this office. We've seen that come down substantially in the last 2 months. There's not near as much financial activity being initiated in this office. The debit card may always be there, but it's being utilized far less than it has been in the past. That's a good thing. We still have a few things that are coming through without Jewel Growth Partners, including a charge for Microsoft, and there's another that I don't remember. Those do not need to be there. That's something we work on. Getting it into Jewel's hands. That's where our accounts of record are. That's where that has to be ideally. Please that our accountant is on vacation, so we haven't taken that up with her yet in Malta. Yeah. Down here, these are some of the variances that we discussed in the finance committee meeting, line by line. And again, we had good engagement by the community, including the SCC on that. And thank you for that. Let me just pause there and see if you have any particular questions.
So is it $30,000? When I look at those transactions, as I was referring in a public records request, there's Verizon, that's a phone bill, that's telephone expenses. I guess what is the threshold at which they don't categorize it naturally? They need that documentation, and who can get that documentation to support the fact that Verizon, or is it a duplicate one? I guess. What's preventing those from being categorized? Is it just a lack of documentation in terms of like receipts or invoices?
I think when they say, go back up to that page, Robin, when Jewel Growth Partner says here, current fiscal year count of missing documentation, I think what they mean is, and they're not here to clarify this, is at the time they become aware of the charge and record it, they don't have documentation, but we typically follow up with receipts later. And that's an imperfect process at Bumpy One, and there are probably some omission errors, and that all the reason more to get it into the hands of Jewel Growth Partners in the first place.
So if they get the documentation at a later date, does it come off that list, or is that just a metric to show us that that was submitted without documentation?
The second thing, what this 30,000 tells us is this is processing of payments to the school outside the scope of Jewel Growth Partners, who are our accountants. So I'm glad they flag it. It is a control weakness.
More a metric than, like, it's not like those things are just out there and charges being made while purchasing cars. There are things that are eventually counted. Is there a way for us to see a list of what's been resolved? Or if it is, like, is there a check mark if there's documents for it? You know what I mean?
Okay, are you asking, for example, is there a register of items comprising of $30,000 a year? We see how some of them drop off over time. Yes.
Okay, so I think that would be in line.
That would be extremely good.
I don't have that at hand, it isn't.
That's off. Because I think it really good speaks to the fact that Jewel Growth Partners is doing their due diligence as our account. Make sure stop these transactions are, they're not just hanging out. Because I was a little concerned that there was $30,000 worth of transactions with documentation. You read it also in Spanish. wasn't nefarious, or is it just a great, like, you guys are spending $30,000 to cover our legal? Don't do that anymore, you're saving stuff. We cut down on our life checks. We've gotten a lot of people sign up for Bill.com, which is really good, makes it so those transactions can be monitored more effectively, we can make sure that they're timed more appropriately. And also cut down on life checks, because those are expensive, check-ins are not cheap.
They are, and then this will see in a moment, I think we'll have to. Great.
Yes.
And so this process is not only copy and precise time, but we just don't know if our documentation is complete because it happens after the fact, it happens through a manual process. Not where I got the CSV. Okay. I did a run chart on that, absent its constituents, like who have been paying. So good idea, I will do that. Okay, back to this page, the red line contingency is 3% of our costs going to a contingency, which is a way of smoothing overages and underages. I'm honestly not sure why we do that. Maybe it's a requirement. I don't know why we do that, but we do. Okay, next thing, balance sheet. We talked about this a little bit last time. A balance sheet shows us what our assets are, a little under $1 million now, and who has claims upon them. And again, our creditors have greater claims than the owners, and we know that. Some of the bigger parts that moved a lot in here included the cash balance. Again, we're building cash toward the end of the year. We also had significant receipts from apportionment right at the end of April, last couple of days of April. We did do a check run, a payment run right at the end of April as well. Down here, you can see the flip side of that. Accounts payable has gone down a little over $100,000 because we were very tight on cash in March, and some of what we deferred in March, we paid in April. But like some of our vendors are relief, I should say. Any questions on the balance sheet? Here we have the payroll check summary, and there's a bit I need to read to you about that. One thing here, and one of you pointed this out, you did that, right? But we did not get corrected, my apologies. Secretary should actually read Bev, and chair should read Robin. So I did not get this corrected with Jewel Growth Market, my apologies. But here we've acknowledged it's an error. Likewise with accounts payable. These are accounts payable because payments issued by Jewel Growth Partners according to our regular control does not include that $30,000 of what they call undocumented, which is here. Yeah, here we go. I knew it was in here someplace. We use a debit card or EFT, which is electronic fund transfer, done without Jewel Growth Partners. Automatic charges. Payroll provider, that could be, and I believe should be, paid through Jewel, just like any other disbursement. Verizon, yes, as you mentioned, and Microsoft. Without those, we would have nothing. We would have had nothing. Well, we've had a significant reduction in payments outside of Jewel. We still have a little ways to go. And I think we've all expressed the intent that we don't want to be doing this. Yeah. Same error here. We didn't accidentally change your roles. There. Error. Question before I read this bit.
Really quick, I was responding to another, there was questions about the home and oral receipts. There's a lot that happen very close to each other, and I was wondering if we know why. If it's because we only have 2 buses, but I didn't know we used both of them, so I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to just answer.
Why the amounts are the same?
Well, and also why they happen so close together and sometimes on the same. I have no idea.
I have seen that, but I've not looked into the cause of it. So I will volunteer to do it.
Awesome. And then also I would like to mention, I just noticed Justin Observer has their hand raised and our time for public comment has passed. At board@PCM.org. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Jessica Observer has their hand raised,
Okay.
and our public comment time has passed. So I'm just inviting them to send us an email,
Okay.
or next board meeting, request public comment time, and we'll gladly take those comments at that point. Just want to make sure we're fair and consistent when we allow people to get their comments. Stick to the time that's given. But other than that, I'm good, thank you.
I am aware, let me back up, I am aware that the finance committee at some point needs to, lead the effort to engage with the independent auditors to get the 23-24 audit plan. Well aware of that, I have not contacted the auditors yet, though. I'm assuming that the finance committee initiates that, maybe the auditors do, but we'll get it done. For sure. Okay. Board minutes. The following payments are audited and certified as audited and certified by the auditing officer as required by RCW 42-24080, and those expense reimbursements claims certified as required by RCW 42-24090 are also approved for payment. In addition, payroll payments in the amount of 61,908.01 are also approved. General fund, accounts payable. Total electronic payments totaling $180,284.60, and as I mentioned, just 2 checks in April totaling $43,318.92. And that more electronic payments, less checks is stronger in terms of control and also access time. Non-AP cash disbursements, electronic payments totaling $1289.87. These again are the payments made outside of Fuel Growth Partners systems. And manual check numbers, none. That's good. Payroll, total electronic payments totaling $61,008.01, and no manual checks, which says all of our people are on direct deposit, which is cool. Again, more efficient, tighter control, less effort.
Just so 43,000 with 2 checks, that's really savings. I was just wondering what those checks were for. Because they're pretty big payments, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah. And we noted, and I think Tim asked about that, some of those larger payments that you saw in instances, and one of them was for a sped resource, and I don't know. But she questioned the amounts from the perspective of expense.
Right.
Would you want to come back to look at approving this at the next meeting once we have information?
That's true, for me.
Yeah.
I would rather come back with answers and say, I don't know, I'll get them to you.
No,
It's just a big amount.
Yeah.
But let me just check.
by then we'll hopefully have more information on the bus receipts as well for the fuel.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I think that would be good, if we can talk to the fuel proceeding process, then possibly even have that list of payments were matched.
Yeah.
So we can see that it's not $30,000 hanging out there. It's simply just a report showing us that that's how much you spent off cycle or out of the norm. Yeah.
Yes. Out of the norm is a good phrase from now on. We don't want to do it. Yeah. Okay.
So we need to vote on moving that vote. Okay, so I have a motion to the vote to approve the finances.
I move.
And second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. All right.
Could I just say, I really appreciate your verbal explanation when we're looking at the dashboard and it's like, why is it red? When, you know, it looks like we've got more money in from like private sources. It's just helpful, I think, for people here and also people on Zoom too.
Thank you. Yeah, it is extremely valuable. So are your explanations of things like that $30,000 number, and that's not $30,000 we don't know how to spend. It's just outside of the intended process. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
With that, we move on to other business. Anyone have any other business? I don't have anything.
I would just, give an update on how, teacher appreciation went.
That's good.
Yeah, oh my gosh, okay, so if you understand, even as parents watching, if you haven't already seen it, there's this checklist, those points all contributed to saying thank you to the teachers, markers and pens, and everyone got a chance to do it, it's right next to screen poster they're making now, because they're learning about insects. That's very exciting, because they all love insects and love learning about them, and metamorphosis. So, 2 great posters to check out, please come look at them if you haven't already. But every day we make sure the teachers are well fed. Yeah? Did you get a ring in your treat? I thought I saw that. Those were you too? Oh my gosh. I was wondering. Yes. I was like, it's teacher appreciation, so I'm not going to partake, but I listened to everyone say how good. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yes, and everyone got, I made sure the break room was stocked with snacks on the side as well. I made sure brought in lots of good stuff, like waters and things. It's important to keep them full of energy to care for our children. I know I need lots of energy.
Especially as we move through to the end of the school year. And lots of extra events.
Randomly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it went really well, and I feel like they felt appreciated. It's really great, because I'm there every morning. I get to see them, and every morning trying to sell all these break programs, they're always there with a smile, so I appreciate that. Just want to say thank you to all of our staff, students and families for supporting us, and thank you to everyone else who's keeping us honest. So I think that's important too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn this month's regular meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, all those. Motion passes. We shall adjourn our meeting of the Surrey Board of Trustees at 6:57 p.m. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you all.